Hi everyone and welcome to Nicko's Kitchen's Budget Meals. Today we're going to be making the French classic Tarte Tatin. It is so easy and best of all, it's super cheap to do.
He's got budget meals Monday, what you want Wednesday, fast food Friday, what else could he share? It's Nicko's Kitchen where satisfying meals are prepared.
So the first thing that we're going to do on our Tarte Tatin is make our caramel. Now I'm using a white based pot for this because I like to see the color of the caramel, but you could do this in any heavy based pan on the stove. And the first thing I'm going to be adding in is just a small amount of water. And next I'm going to be adding in some sugar. Now I'm just going to mix this around with the water. And I want the heat to be a low to medium heat. Now what we're waiting for in the pan is for it to start bubbling and boiling, and we want to do this slowly, and the color will gradually change. It will go from a light sort of blonde color to a light caramel, and we want this darkish caramel color in the end. So we're almost there with the color that we're after. We're almost after this dark orange color, if you like. And you can just smell these beautiful flavors coming from the caramel. And the darker the caramel gets, the less sweet it's getting. So we just want it to be a little bit acidic, not too much. Now right at the end, okay, I'm gonna be popping in some butter. And there's enough heat in there so you don't need to turn the heat off. And I'm just gonna pop our butter. Make sure the butter is at room temperature. And you'll see here, look at that. It will just be absolutely beautiful, and that's exactly what we're after. Just have a look at that beautiful caramel there. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to leave this to cool slightly, and while we're leaving it to cool, we're going to get started on our apples. Now I've got our beautiful apples here, and I've got some pink lady apples, and I just find they go really, really well with this Tarte Tatin. Now all I want you to do with our apples is core them and peel them and cut them in half. So guys, what I've done is I've put our caramel into a baking dish or a cake tin, and I've got our apples here, and like I said, I've cut them in half, and I'm just going to be placing them on top of the caramel. So you want to make sure when you're putting the apples in, they are firmly packed in. Like when you push down, it starts to rise up a little bit. Now I've got some melted butter here, and what I'm going to be doing is brushing the top of the apples. Now what I want you to do is pop this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees C for 20 minutes, and we're just going to be cooking off those apples, and then we're going to take it out and work on our pastry. So I've just pulled out the apples and caramel from the oven. You can see it's just slightly browning on the top. Now I've got our puff pastry here, and you want to make sure that the puff pastry is frozen. You don't want to let it to thaw out. It will thaw out enough when we put it on the top because the apples are still quite warm. And just using a pan of the same size, I'm just going to cut around the pastry, and I'm just going to place the pastry over the top, and any parts that are just overlapping, just tuck them in with your thumb. Now we're going to pop this back into the oven for a further 20 to 25 minutes at the same temperature, 180 degrees C, until that beautiful pastry is nice and golden brown. Now I've just pulled our Tarte Tatin out of the oven, and one thing I did forget to tell you just before we put it in was I just got a fork and pricked the top of the pastry so the steam won't bubble and really make that pastry higher. It'll be nice and firm and flat just the way we put it in. Now once we've taken it out of the oven, I want to leave it for 5 minutes just to rest, and that caramel will just thicken slightly. Now when we do take it out of the tin, you want to be very, very careful because that caramel will be really, really hot, and if you get that on your skin, it'll burn like hell, let me tell you. What I do is I get a baking tray, and I make sure the baking tray's got some sides to it, because if the caramel does leak over, and usually it does, you're not going to be getting it dripping everywhere. Voila. You can see our apples there. We've got that beautiful caramel crust on the top there, and that caramel's just seeped straight in to our apples. It smells absolutely wonderful. So let's get stuck into this Tarte Tatin, shall we? And I've put some creme fraiche alongside the Tarte Tatin because I think it just goes really, really well with it. Check that out, let's go. The flavors of that caramel, and you remember me talking before, I wanted to make the caramel just a little bit on the bitter side rather than the sweet side because the apples are sweet. And you've got this sweetness, bitterness thing happening. The flavors just go bang in your mouth, and that is a winner. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Tarte Tatin. I will see you on Wednesday for What You Want Wednesday, so make sure you get your recipe requests into my Twitter or Facebook pages or in the comments below. So until then, take care.